A lot of the times, whenever you think of what a video game movie is, something negative comes to mind. They don't have a very good reputation in this film sphere, and that's for a very good reason. A lot of them in the 80s and 90s just didn't understand the properties that they were trying to adapt. The ones in the 2000s seem to be more so action schlock than anything else, with a lot of them being based off of horror franchises. And in the 2020s, things seem to be spotty, but getting better. The Sonic films are well liked by a number of people. Iron Lung did really well for what it is. Sure, we may get stinkers here and there, but the quality seems to be more consistent now. That all being said, this is one of the most efficient time travel movies because Return to Silent Hill feels like a grand return to the 2000s horror schlock video game adaptations. And part of the reason for that is because it's a sequel to one. But while that one is at least somewhat fondly remembered, this one, well, it made a lot of people upset. I went into this movie with a very ironic mindset. I went in with the intention of going with a friend and just making fun of the whole movie. And I was kind of interested to see what the reaction of the audience would be to that. And there were a few other people in the theater there. And while we sat in the back and were kind of talking and joking about it through the whole movie, it seemed like a lot of the other people, for the first act at least, were at least somewhat invested. But as the movie went on, you could tell that people were losing a lot of interest and a lot of faith in what this movie was. I heard more and more people starting to laugh at parts that were supposed to be scary, and especially the emotional parts. And I heard basically every group in the theater talking during the boring parts of the movie. That could be bad theater etiquette, but for this movie, there's not really much defending those sorts of actions. This is a boring slog of a movie, where the only redeeming quality is how goofy, silly, and poorly made it is at certain points. Now, I haven't delved much at all into the horror video game genre. I've never played a Resident Evil or a Silent Hill game. I've played a few indie ones, but not really ones that focus on a grander story like this one does. I know that Resident Evil 2 is considered to have one of the best narratives in any video game, and I could tell that there were parts and scraps and pieces in this movie, but the way that they were assembled just never came together. The movie feels very pretentious. A lot of the times it hits you over the head with this imagery that you can tell was probably from the video game and actually had something to say there. But in here, it's just confusing. There's these ideas about cancer, about losing a child, about so many things of loss. And while it hits you over the head with this imagery, it never gives you a reason to connect to any of it. It never explains what the deeper meaning of it is. It's confusing, but also not at the same time. It's strange. It hits you over the head with this imagery, but it has nothing to say. I know Silent Hill isn't nearly as action-based as something like Resident Evil is, so it made it all the more confusing why this felt like it was supposed to be a Resident Evil movie. There are scenes in here that are just pure action schlock. It feels like this character is supposed to be helpless and weak and you're supposed to be scared in one scene, but in the next he's taking a bat to the head of all these monsters and taking them out one by one like some sort of action hero. It deflates the tone of what's supposed to be scary scenes because we know that the hero is capable of defeating these monsters. But the action is also taken aback because there's a lot of slow scenes where it's just the main character cowering in fear, and it's strange why he would do that when we know that he can defeat these monsters. Speaking of the monsters, there are a lot of strange design choices. Some monsters were strangely caked up, and the CGI on pretty much everything was pretty bad. It's very noticeable. The dialogue here feels so bog standard. The writing here is what you would expect from a movie like this if it came out in the early 2000s. And overall, there's not much redeeming about this other than the ironic enjoyment you can get from it here and there. But hey, that's what I have to say about the movie. Feel free to tell me what you thought in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.